I know that in Blue Note there is a Blue Note jazz competition that you took a part in, and it was successful. Many other competitions, Bielska Zadymka Jazzowa, Crocus Jazz. Tell us about those experiences.
Yeah, so I had like very long actually period in my time when I was taking a part in many different jazz competitions, mostly band competitions, because that was the best way for me to take a part in this kind of competition, because the idea of any kind of rivalry in music is not really appealing for me. First of all, it was great source of like motivation to practice, to compose another songs, right? And then obviously it was a great opportunity also to play in front of the audience, because back then, I was not playing that much. So it was great that it was possible to play for the audience, to try yourself, listen to the other musicians, share some experience as well. And and thankfully we were successful many times. So that was a great time, definitely.
Great that Blue Note exists in Poznań. Poznań, which is a really important place in the story of Polish jazz. It's hometown of Krzysztof Komeda. Obviously. So I think growing up in a place like this must be a special time. How was your childhood here?
Yeah, obviously, like you said, Krzysztof Komeda was born in Poznań, and this is a very special place. Because of that, you ask about when I started my journey with jazz, right?
Yeah.
So it was like 2005, I believe, and around that time I was on my first proper jazz concert, I would say. It was Pat Metheny group. They were promoting their latest album, The Way Up. Probably still my favorite album by this artist. And my dad bought the tickets, and it was really memorable experience for me. And since that time I started really to be interested in jazz music, and there forward it was high school obviously, and then study at the Poznań Music Academy.
So you were playing guitar by then already, and you listened to Pat Metheny and wanted to play jazz, right?
Yes, but actually before that I was more kind of a rock player, like most of the guitar players. I guess it's not really unique, but I started with bands like Metallica and Iron Maiden, rock bands, Queen as well. And because I guess most of the guitar players and drummers as well starting their musical path that way most of the time. But around, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years of playing after that, I started to really be interested in jazz. Because I also met people in high school which were playing jazz. Also my brother, who is just 1 year younger than me, he started to play double bass, and he also fell in love with jazz. So we had the opportunity to play together and talk a lot about music, so sharing experiences. Obviously we formed a lot of different bands together, played a lot of concerts, and we are doing this actually till this day. So.
Well, you know, my brother is a very versatile musician, first of all, because he can play a lot of different stuff. And the reason is that he actually loves all kinds of music. So he can play really rock stuff, funk stuff, jazz also, of course. From our very young age, we were influenced by many musical genres. That's why I think we both love different kind of music and we love to play different kind of stuff. And I think that it's a big advantage for him to be able to do that.
He's got his own unique sound. I think it's not easy to obtain by the musicians his own unique sound. It's a compilation of technique, musicality, and also equipment. And David always was trying to play the best instruments available on our market. Also, he was choosing very good electronics, amplifiers.
The greatest competition for a jazz musician is to play with great musicians that can lead you, and you can check yourself on stage with some leaders that you look up to. And I know that you had many opportunities like that actually Poznań, the city of Poznań, gave you. Tell us about those meetings, because it were great names that invited you to play with them. It was McKenzie, Wendel. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so maybe I will start with Blue Note, because we are in Blue Note right now. So 2015, I played there with a great French singer, which was back then living in America, Vince de Jean Parette, and it was possibly the first big concert for me with kind of an international jazz star. You know, he's maybe not that famous like Wendel or Sarah McKenzie, but still it was a big name, at least for me, and you know, concert was completely sold out, so it was great experience. And Sarah McKenzie, quite a funny story actually. I played with Sarah by a coincidence actually, because the band was late, and actually there were some issues with flights, some delays of the flights, and they didn't appear on time. And because of that, I got a call from manager if it is possible for me to play the same day, like 5 hours before the gig. And I said, why not? Let's try. I will try. I will do my best.
Let's talk about Wendel. When I think of his music, I actually really imagine you two playing together. You had some qualities that are very similar, in my opinion.
Yeah, kinda. You can say something like this, I guess, because Wendel incorporating in his music a lot of influences from different genres, different musical styles. You know, like obviously some electronics, obviously some, you know, groove music, like maybe rock or something, you know, funky music. Maybe not that much funky, but you know what I mean. And he's really open-minded, and he's a great leader and a great guy as well. And actually working with him was one of my best experience. We played together concert, actually almost exactly 1 year ago.
what did you learn from those leaders, and what did you take to your band conducting and to playing with other musicians? What did you learn from those leaders?
Yeah, so for example, if we are talking about Ben, he showed me how you can be open in terms of composing, in terms of playing live, for example, but also on which different elements you can think during the gig. Like he told us a lot about interaction in the band, you know, listening to the other person. It's quite obvious for most of the people, you know, you need to listen to other musicians, yeah, right? But he gave us more specific tips, and it was very valuable. I want to play complicated, maybe a little bit virtuoso music, but also I like if the jazz music is a little bit catchy. I don't like if jazz music is over intellectual. Obviously, that's very subjective, but I guess you know what I want to say.
I know what you want to say, and I actually applaud it, because I think that's something you took from your story of listening to music, that you started with rock music, which is based on riffs and it's catchy music,
exactly.
and you took those qualities and incorporate them to your jazz playing, and I think that's great.
At least I am trying.
Really important value of learning jazz is listening. It's the most important part. It's the jazz musician, of course, has to know how to play, but he has to firstly know how to listen. Is that something that you teach at the academy when you have students?
Yeah, that's actually really important, because back then in 40s, 50s, 60s, when we are talking about, you know, Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, obviously Miles, you know, Coleman Hawkins, Train Dan, you know, Sonny Stitt, and all of these great bebop players, they were almost specifically only listen to the music. There were not like, you know, any kind of books teaching how to play jazz. The jazz was like developing at that time, during that time, right? So, and I think that it should be that way still. Maybe not completely, because obviously the Music Academy are very helpful if you want to understand the basic rules of harmony. If you want to create a band, yeah, and obviously I am sharing with my students a lot of different music, so they, you know, bringing to our lessons also some great artists, new albums, which I would not probably hear about. And yeah, we're talking about this music, and listening is a big part of education for sure, and it's hard to think that you can be jazz musician without listening to the albums and listening properly.
So who do you listen to the most? Who are your idols?
I would say that my first big idol was and still is possibly Pat Metheny. It's fairly obvious choice, I know that, but he's such a, you know, diverse artist, and he did so many amazing albums. And other artists, you know, I am actually very much into fusion music, like I said. So Chick Corea, I love his first of all Return to Forever, Electric Band as well. Actually, I prefer the first band, Return to Forever. and Mahavishnu Orchestra, John McLaughlin band. Obviously, I love his music as well. Other than that, from some more modern artists, Kurt Rosenwinkel is one of my guitar heroes, but is also great composer and great artist in general. Possibly it happening for a long time that jazz is, like you said, melting with other genres. It's normal in the present days, and I think that jazz will go that way further, possibly. And from one side, I think it is important for jazz to keep some traditional elements, so this swing tradition, bebop traditions. But from the other hand, every single genre needs to evolve if they want to be interesting for a modern listeners, right? Actually, it's hard to say when it's the borderline for jazz.
What do you like to do besides listening and playing? Because there must be something that gives you some fresh air and, relax.
Of course. It is necessary.
Exactly.
It is necessary. Being a
What do you
musician is
do?
a crazy thing. So, yeah, obviously, I am actually a gym freak, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, I love weightlifting. Back then, I was actually training boxing, but for around year and a half, I would say, just because I was very interested in sport. I was watching, fights. I have my favorite athletes and things like that, and I started training box, but I stopped because it was not the best thing for my wrists. So I started to feel in pain, and then I realized that I need to stop definitely, because mainly I am and I want to be a musician, of course. And then I transitioned more to the weightlifting. Yeah, I almost also, a bookworm. I love to read all sorts of different books. I love autobiography, mainly musicians, but also not only. I read actually quite a lot, fantasy books like, Tolkien, obviously, George R. Martin, Song of Ice and Fire, obviously Witcher by our Polish writer Andrzej Sapkowski, and many different things. Stephen King is possibly one of my favorites writer. And so yeah, and I'm trying every single day before I go sleep to, read at least for 10 to 15 minutes, because then most of the time I'm passing away. So anyway. So I think that jazz will follow that path of melting with different styles, but possibly the most important element, which I said before, improvisation will still be the most present, and that's the most important thing, the spontaneous element of jazz.